First response we got in September, October 24 just kind of blew our minds away. I think we had not anticipated this level of response for consumers.
Did you consciously try to ease the consumers' EV decision making?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, Windsor creating an appetite for the people instead of just you sending out a product.
Correct. Our battery is locally assembled and that entire line is run by women.
So why are they picking up Windsor compared to other companies, EVs by other companies, or even the one by MG? Why is Windsor topping all of them?
I think the reason Windsor is the number one selling EV in the country is simply because it answers for three or solves for three problems of the consumers. Rejectors of both the categories or adopters of both the categories. What is your unmet need? So the sub 4 meter guy would tell us that, hey, I wish I had more space, like your friend who's 6'4" and 6'2" would never be able to fit in a sub 4 meter car.
Yeah.
So when we talked to consumers, they said, I need more space in my car. Then when we went to the folks who were over 20 lakhs, they said, what? While the space is there, the technology inside is not intuitive enough. It is intimidating for me. And the price point seems more than what I think the product can potentially be positioned at. So that's where you identify what is that unmet need. I need space. So if you think about the Windsor has a footprint of very similar to a large SUV, which is 4.3 meters. It has a wheelbase of 2800 mm, which is significant. And it is at a price point of 13.5-14 lakhs to about 18 lakhs. So it tells you that, hey, you have identified a niche, a consumer unmet need, and that unmet need, if you can translate into a solution that can be positioned for the consumer, they will respond because they have. In the case of Windsor, they have responded and how. For me, that is what is most important. It is not about the product. It is not about the positioning. It starts from understanding your customers.
It must have been difficult because you're coming when Tata has already had a head start. They're the first movers.
Yeah.
So you needed to know so it is not just positioning. You went to what's needed by the
correct
by the average consumer on the ground, that this is what he really needs.
Correct. I think for me, if you look at all successful products in any product category, it will always start with an unmet need of a consumer. The smallest of products to the most complex products start with an
in a very crowded market. I would like to say
that's right,
because like a BlackBerry or an Apple didn't have that, had the advantage that they were so technologically new that the newness carried them.
Correct.
But something like you in a crowded space, you had to know what the consumer really want. Correct. Because after that, any amount of positioning or the best of the product won't really work.
Correct.
I try to say that
100%. I think it is many times people start by talking about, what is the positioning of the product and how should I price it? It doesn't start with that. It starts with understanding your consumer.
What point did you realize that a car like Windsor was not just going to be niche, it's going to be mass? Was there that point of inflection which you saw there? So
we believe that we were confident that the product will do well because it delivered to an unmet need of a consumer. But after launch, the kind of first response we got in September, October 24 just kind of blew our minds away. I think we had not anticipated this level of response for consumers. That also meant that we had we had to have a ramp up curve which was steeper than what we had ever anticipated. And to me, it's a delight. The fact that you've been able to create a product that consumers want and love is not easy. And when you get it right, there is a tremendous amount of satisfaction that you get.
Did you consciously try to ease the consumers' EV decision making?
Yes, we did. Absolutely. And you are spot on. Initially, when we were putting together the brief for the product, like I said, we spent a lot of time. When we spent time with them, consumers came back and told us that here are some of my, kind of worry bees, if I can call it, with regards to adopting an EV. It's one, will there be resale value for this car? There isn't any data that exists. EVs generally tend to be more expensive than petrol and diesel cars. Is there a way you can solve for that? We came out with battery as a service at that point in time to separate the cost of the vehicle from that of the battery. Consumers came back and said, I'm anxious about charging infrastructure. So when you spend time with consumers, they'll also tell you why they would probably not embrace. And that became the pre-work that we were doing before the launch of the Windsor. So the concept of the Windsor got sort of created around Jan 24, but we spent a lot of time, almost 9 months, just working through the ecosystem and ensuring that we solve for those sort of irritants that consumers might have. And I must acknowledge that it has been a collective effort by everybody in the industry to try and ensure that these issues that consumers may have are getting dispelled and they become myths more than reality.
One of my friend's father, who drives a Windsor, he says that Windsor was very helpful to me to understand the EV market, because this is the first time when the service element came in, I realized how critical and how expensive the battery is. He says that pushed him actually to sit and read about how electric batteries are made for EVs.
Yeah.
And he found about China, and he found what kind of work elsewhere is being done. So it has started a thinking process. So what you can say that you have created an appetite.
Yeah.
It is like Windsor creating an appetite for the people instead of just you sending out a product.
Correct. I think it has been a lot of education, and by education it is not just for consumers but for our own teams as well.
Yeah.
Whether it is our MG India team or it is the dealership staff, because selling an EV also requires a certain amount of knowledge that you should have so that you can sell the technology in a manner that is easy to understand for consumers as well. So there's been a lot of education exercise that has been done. I mean, you mentioned battery. I must say over here something that we are very proud of. Our battery is locally assembled, and that entire line is run by women. So next time when you are in Baroda, please do come, take a look at our facility and interact with almost 45% diversity ratio we have at the factory. And we would love to show you how the enterprising women at JSW MG are putting the most complex, the heart of the car is being put together by them.
So who is buying Windsor today, or who are they buying it for?
I think it is a extremely good family car. It is meant also for people who enjoy to drive. I drive a Windsor every day, and I can tell you I love the drive. I would rather take the longer route to get to office just so that I get a few more minutes driving my Windsor. And it is for people who enjoy comfort, people who enjoy technology, people who are conscious of the environment and want to do what is right for the country.
So why are they picking up Windsor compared to other companies, EVs by other companies, or even the one by MG? Why is Windsor topping all of them?
I think the reason Windsor is the number one selling EV in the country is simply because it answers for solves for three problems of the consumers, which is today unmet or was unmet till the Windsor came along. I think one is the space inside the car is just fantastic. It is a space which is of a higher category car. Second, it comes at a price point that is absolutely at the sweet spot. Third, it's got intuitive technology inside the car, which is easy for you to relate to without it being overpowering for you. And finally, because it is an EV, the unit economics are fantastic.
So you mean to say campaigns have stopped mattering? We used to have those huge campaigns, those slogans, which used to become household names after crores were spent on it. So you are trying to say that content has finally trumped over campaigns.
Yeah, I think, you can run a content-based campaign as well. And for me, storytelling is very important. What is the story you want to communicate to your consumers? Today, consumers are wanting authenticity. If you can communicate with them in an authentic manner, if you communicate to them in an authentic manner and you tell a story that is relatable, they will respond to it. If you try and do a very large production and then put it out on television, I think the impact of that will be probably lesser than any form of authentic, relatable content that you put out.
You're saying much more democratic then?
More democratic.
It's more inclusive.
That's right.
So you are also then trying to say, is that just having a narrative doesn't really matter. How you actually spread it, how it is eventually spread and received.
Correct. Spot on. I think the content is important. You can place it out there, but if nobody is consuming it, obviously it doesn't land anywhere. So it's very important to have the right content, which is the storytelling has to be right. It has to be done in an authentic and relatable manner. And the fact that it has got to be distributed. It should reach the set of people that you want it to reach. And honestly, digital allows you to do it far more effectively than probably any of the other traditional mediums.
We talk about Windsor. Do you have some example in your mind that somebody who was last possible person to be buying an EV, some instant or a case? For example, I was not going digital in payments. And one day I didn't have money and my daughter taught me and then I was using it. And then recently when I was with her, and she said, "You're not carrying any money." I said, "No, I'm not, because I'm doing it digitally." So somebody who was totally not likely. Do you have some instance like that?
Yeah, plenty of them. I think if I talk about a customer of ours in Kerala called Kiran, this is a 26, 27-year-old gentleman who decided to buy an EV. And like I said, very traditional. When you go to his house, it is a very traditional home. There is a lamp. They're very religious in their own right. All the product categories that they have bought are all very traditional brands. So when you open his cupboard, you will find your usual set of conventional brands that they associate. You open the Foot Locker and you will find the traditional Bata shoes placed over there. And I was a bit surprised that he bought. But then he gave me a fascinating story. He said, "Anurag, come, I'll show you something." And we came out and we looked up. On the rooftop was a solar. And I asked him, "Why did you buy the solar?" He said, "Anurag, my electricity bill was very high. Government is giving significant subsidies. So when I do the math, it becomes very clear for me that my bijli ka bill will be virtually nothing if I put the solar." I said, "So was that an extension for you to consider buying an EV?" He said, "Yeah, it was a no-brainer because the unit economics are so powerful." I said, "But it is a brand, it is a technology that is not conforming to your rest of your products and brands that you associate with." He said, "Anurag, Indian consumer will chase value. You deliver value to the consumer will give you a chance." And I'm so grateful to him for giving us a chance to serve him and his family. We are not a conformist brand at all in any yardstick. But it's been a privilege to be able to serve consumers who have taken that leap of faith on the brand and on new technology, because the proposition is so strong for that individual.
So you're talking about leap of faith. Say a few years ago, what was the percentage of people who came converted and convinced, and how many were there? Percentage were those you had to convert and convince compared to today?
It is much lower, I would say, because even if you go back 5 years, the EV adoption in India was less than 1%. Right?
So how many people were coming convinced that they're going to buy? And how many percent had to be convinced then?
I think it would be close to about 20% who would come looking for, I'm looking to buy an EV. Yeah. Today, close to 80-85% of the people who are coming are convinced they want to buy an EV, right? They've come to your store, they've inquired about it. And I keep telling my dealership team this every time I meet them. I tell them the consumer is only coming to the store not to ask you about features of the car, because that they have researched online already. They're coming to the store only to check whether they are going to partner with someone who will be able to take care of them. वो आपको देखने आ रहा है, वो गाड़ी को देखने नहीं आ रहा, क्योंकि वो ये समझना चाह रहा है, क्या आप मेरा ध्यान रखेंगे, and is it a dealership or a person that I can relate to?
Lot many manufacturers are actually contributing to that trust. I think it's an ecosystem which is coming in.
That's right.
Where the government is giving in incentivizing, where the government is helping creation of infrastructure, taking stakeholders along with them. Because what do you hear more nowadays? Why EV or why not EV?
Why not is what consumers are talking. Why EV is done. People are convinced that EVs have to be embraced. And all of us collectively as OEMs and the government are making a significant push to ensure that we do the right thing, because it is the right thing. Like mutual fund sahi hai, वैसे EV sahi hai. Right? And that is really the message we want to constantly communicate. It's in the interest of the country, it's in the interest of the environment, it's in the interest of you and your household. I think so. There cannot be a proposition stronger than that.
You see, there was a problem in selling environment in this country where lot many people had to vacate jungles, native villages, because animals had to be protected. But till a kinship was created, they didn't feel like protecting the forest. So it is definitely environment that consciousness is there, but that value element has to be there. If you don't, then consciousness goes for a toss.
Absolutely.
I think what is also important here, that you entered a market where companies like Tata had done the heavy lifting already, and there were strong early players, but still Windsor is doing better. So is there some gap which you have been talking about, that the consumer, what it really needed, what did they have in mind? What is that gap did you really work on?
Yeah, I think so I keep telling this to a lot of people, no OEM or engineer ever gets up and says, I don't want to make a successful product. Every company does that. All engineers in their own right build fantastic products. It will come down to what is the consumer insight that you have got, which you are able to translate into engineering speak, which can then be converted into a product and then brought to the market. All OEMs in India are doing a terrific job. I mean, without exception, everyone is solving for the right sort of challenges that the country faces. And I have huge respect and regard for all these companies which are solving for this problem. I think the Windsor is unique in the sense that we were able to tap into a consumer unmet need, which was quite glaring, which is that I want the footprint or space of a large SUV, but I'm not willing to pay the price of a large SUV. And I want technology that is very intuitive. It has to be the latest technology, but it has to be intuitive and easy for me to sort of navigate. And I think that has been the secret sauce of
Do these new launches which are happening constantly challenge you?
I think
or
it's
how
welcome.
You're staying ahead of the curve?
I think it's a welcome thing, because if India has to get to 30% new energy vehicles by 2030, which is what the policy framework is, it will not happen by one or two OEMs. It has to have, we have to solve for the supply side. Honestly, I don't think there is a dearth of demand in the country for EVs. The OEMs have to step up and bring newer products.
But how is Windsor staying ahead? My question is.
Yeah, I think the proposition holds strong. Like I said, there are products today which are sub 4 meter, which are compromised in the form of the space that they offer. And then there are products which are over 4 meters, but they are very expensive. So because Windsor has found a very sweet spot, and that really is the reason why it continues to be India's most loved or number one SUV.
Let's take up the ecosystem realities. Just, I think yesterday or day before, there was this news item about a lady driving on a highway and not finding this thing. These kind of, it might be of an X brand, but eventually it takes a hit as far as the EV ecosystem is concerned. So how much of constraint is infrastructure today compared to what was 5 years ago? You're saying that you have got a hub which has been very helpful.
Yeah.
But how much is it? Is it still a little that thin barrier for people?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think if it is 100% solved for, but I think all members of the ecosystem, including the government, and you've been reading the news about the Delhi government wanting to push hard on the charging infrastructure. CPOs, which is charging providers, are also setting up a large amount of infrastructure, whether it is Tata Power, Jio BP or Adani. And you also have OEMs who are setting up, whether it is the Maruti or Mahindra or us. All of us are setting up charging infrastructure as well. For me, the ratio of ICE cars to petrol stations. So on an average, we do 4.5 million cars a year. What is the number of gas stations in the country? 100,000 at best. You look at that ratio, there are 200,000 odd cars that were sold last year in EVs, and there are already 90% of charging is happening at home. Then there are already 32,000 chargers on public charging. So when you look at the ratio is still in favor of EV cars to charging stations. What we need to solve for is ensuring that there is higher levels of reliability of that infrastructure and ensuring that we are constantly communicating to customers that it is a non-issue. When you are traveling from Gurgaon to Chandigarh, there are over 100 chargers, right? So there is almost there is in Bangalore to Chennai, there is over 100 chargers that exist. So the infrastructure is not the issue. The issue we have to solve for is twofold: ensuring that it is reliable, which means the reliability factor has to be higher. And the second thing is communicating to consumers that it is, please don't worry. Every 20-30 kilometers, there is a charger that will be available for you.
Are we over discussing charging issue and under discussing usability? Because eventually, this whole fuel thing, it does not come up when you have got 2 kilometer long queues for petrol and diesel or CNG.
Yeah, you bet. I think that's absolutely right. And the cost of fuel is only going to go one way, right? Whereas if you look at the EVs, the cost is going the other way because the cell prices are coming down and EVs are becoming more affordable. And there is virtually no cost for charging your EV. It's only about 1 rupee is all you end up paying. So it is really, it is a question of making sure that we communicate collectively. I mean, there is a conversation that we are having as an industry body also to try and see that can we come together and communicate the value to consumers instead of individually trying to bring this out.
So now that Windsor is number one and you've got the Shah Rukh Khan of EVs, doesn't the challenge start here for you?
Yeah, I think the next one coming should also hopefully do an outstanding number. So we are kind of getting ready for our next launch, which should happen in the later part of this year.
Because the market is going to get competitive.
Yeah, it is, and welcome all.
And there are going to be more neo-converts for EVs.
Yes, and all are welcome. I think the more products that get launched, if you remember back in 2015, 2016, smaller footprint SUVs were virtually non-existent. And now they comprise 65% of the industry. So I think the more the merrier, because the more brands that come in, it will create wider portfolios. The portfolios will get wider, more brands will come in, and that will make the consumers come to the market more and assess between an ICE and an EV. And I'm sure they will choose the EV.
Home charging, is that a game changer?
I think that has been a revelation, to be honest. The fact that 90% of charging today happens at home and the ease with which it gets done. I mean, one of our customers in Bangalore, she told me that, Anurag, I don't have to even once go to a fuel station. The fuel station has come to me. So I can decide when I want to charge. I don't have to wait in a queue or decide that I cannot charge it after 10 o'clock in the night. So she's got the charger at home. She can charge it whenever she feels like.
Do you see India building a different EV model than the West?
It already has, in a way of speaking. I think the problems that we are solving for are different from the ones that people in the West have. The kind of complex country that we are, the distances that we have, the terrains that we have are very different. The weather conditions are very different. So I think India is unique in its own right. And I think we'll have to find local solutions which can help solve for issues of Indian consumers rather than cut, copy, paste something that has happened in the West.
How fast or gradual will be the scaling from here?
I think all of us...
Because we are talking 30%.
Yeah, that's right. I think it will come by a combination of factors. One is, of course, the ecosystem will have to quickly ramp up, which includes the charging infrastructure, financing getting sorted, or ramping up of retail financing by banks themselves. Companies like Cars24, etc., getting into the used car space for EVs as well. And eventually OEMs stepping up and saying, you know what, I'm going to bet my CapEx money on EVs. And many of the OEMs today have declared plans of very aggressive CapEx deployment for EVs relative to ICE. I think government regulation has also become tighter, which means that by default, OEMs will be guided towards new energy vehicles so as to meet not just the net zero objective that the government has outlined, but also to meet the CAFE norms, which are the fleet emission norms for the OEMs.
Are there surprises still remaining as far as the EV sector is left? Because, what will surprise people most about EV adoption in India? Are there surprises left? You said smaller towns buying 70% of your Windsor. Are there surprising about EV adoption in India?
Yeah, I think the technology, the way it is ramping up or changing, it is a matter of time that you will be able to charge much faster than within 15 minutes. You will be able to charge your car and you are off to your destination. To me, the charging infrastructure will become almost like fuel stations. It's going to be a commodity. The layer of experience will get added, which means that where you sit down and charge your car while you're sipping a cup of coffee, that experience layer will have to get added. But otherwise, I think it's an extremely bright future for new energy vehicles. And I'm delighted that we are getting a chance to, it's once in a lifetime. I think if your viewers can go Google this photograph from 1903, Easter Day Parade, 5th Avenue, you just type that, you'll see a photograph which had only horse carriages. Exactly the same street, 5th Avenue, Easter Day Parade, 10 years later, 1913. If you Google, you will not find a single horse carriage. It turned to motorcades. And it became obvious that we are at a similar transformation in the automotive industry. It is only a matter of time, this whole landscape will change.
It seems that Windsor has been what you call the sweet spot. It is at that intersection, standing and driving ahead very prominently.
Yeah.
So what we can hope is for cleaner air outside in Gurgaon and in Delhi and in Noida and the NCR, that may you triumph in what you are doing.
Thank you.
May you continue providing good, better and best vehicles to the consumers. Anurag, it was a pleasure speaking to you.
It's a pleasure and honor to speak to you, sir.
Pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.